Well, let me turn to someone who understands this issue well. Eddy Perez joins me from Montreal. He serves as the International Climate Diplomacy Director for the Climate Action Network. Eddy, welcome to the program. So how do you overcome these complicated financing issues when you have some delegates actually walking out of talks?
Listen, I don't think it's that complicated. This is a UN multilateral space where we're trying to agree a vision for the future. We want to agree a vision where we all commit to ending the destruction of biodiversity, conserving, protecting, and restoring nature. And that requires a sense of solidarity. I mean, we can't expect African ministers that are coming to this space to be provided with a vision of implementing this global biodiversity framework and then go back to capitals without any sense of international solidarity. And that is what has been happening here. We have ignored these calls from African, Latin American, and Asian nations that have said that the current way in which we're discussing financing does not take into consideration their needs.
I thought it was interesting. You gave an interview in recent days and you said developing nations don't feel reassured that the international community will be there to support them in implementing the goals of the biodiversity framework. So they certainly seem not to have much confidence or trust in wealthier nations.
Exactly. I mean, for me, diplomacy and the UN space is all about dialogue. But when it comes to financial resources, it just looked like a monologue for the first week, where developed countries wanted to put the conditions in the ways in which they wanted to show up in the context of implementing this global biodiversity framework. So it felt like they wanted to pass the bill to developing nations. And that is something that I think really got developing countries frustrated yesterday at night, actually a couple of hours ago. And I think that frustration has become into an opportunity to reset the relationships between developed and developing countries. And I truly, truly hope that the European Union, Japan, Switzerland actually listen to this call, because it's not that the developing countries don't want to be part of these negotiations, it's that they are tired of not being listened and not being considered. That is the difference.
So let me ask you this question. Even if there is an agreement on money, on finance, on funding issues, how will they make sure there's accountability? How will they make sure these certain wealthier nations, if you will hold their word, will keep their commitment?
Well, so far, when you look at other spaces, when you look at the climate space, it is an ongoing discussion that we need to make transparency better. But at the very least, we have seen finance increase, and we can commit in this space to fix the current systems and multilateral institutions so that they are responsive to the needs of the developing countries. There are a couple of ways that we could think about the way forward. The first one is by pledging. We need developed countries to pledge clear, hard money at this COP15. We want them also to commit in 2023 to actually come back and get someone, for example, like the UN Secretary General, to say publicly that they are going to come back in 2023 and put money on the table. And then, we have a financial system. We have MDBs, multilateral development banks. There are financial institutions. Our colleague earlier talked about private sector. None of it can happen if there is no vision about the kind of mobilizations and the way in which this mobilization needs to happen. So what developing countries are asking here is for us to agree to a vision of looking at finance as an ambition-raising discussion, to the same extent as we're looking at the global biodiversity framework as an ambition-raising moment for us to protect our future.
And that is so important. All right, we'll have to leave it there. Eddy Perez, thank you very much. Now, development